What about reverse direct effect? Can it go this way? What would you say? Can a state rely on a non-implemented directive addressed to it in order to prosecute an individual, for instance?
If they rely on the community law that was on the community directive that was
not implemented by them in order to prosecute an individual within the member state. No, why not?
Legally, it's not applicable yet in the country.
Yes, exactly. But this was not clear to all the member states. Like there is a famous case from the Netherlands where the Dutch criminal law had to be brought into accordance with the directive. The Netherlands didn't implement the directive, but they still wanted to prosecute the criminals, as they called them, under the directive. So they took people to jail and they referred directly to the requirements of the directive. And the case ended up before the Court of Justice, and the Court of Justice said, but how come you're relying on your own breach to comply, on your own failure to comply with community law? This is totally impossible for a state to impose obligations on individuals based on its own failure to implement the directive, because the directive is addressed to the member state. So if the member state doesn't perform, the member state cannot expect anything from the citizens either. It's only up to the member states to make it function. So reversed vertical direct effect is not possible. Direct effect always goes one way. Since directives are addressed to states, all the states are expected to act based on the directives. What if we have a horizontal situation? And then, obviously, someone is granted rights, and someone expects that those rights are respected. There is a breach by the member state, and unfortunately, the member state didn't do anything, but someone suffers because of this. It's up to the judge to do everything possible, everything in the power of the judge, in order to interpret the national law applicable to the case in accordance with the directive. So the judge has to find the law that applies and try to reinterpret it in accordance with the provision of the directive, which is not transposed on time, or which is transposed incorrectly. In the case of Pacini-Dori, it was impossible to reinterpret the civil code. The civil code the Italian civil code simply said, no cancellation of the contract is possible on such terms. And the general principle of legal certainty tells us that contra legem interpretation is impossible. So in your interpretation of the instrument, you cannot go against the law.
Their own country and not of the community as a whole.
Well, this is the breach of the law. That's why the Parliament has a right to send the Commission home.
Yes, that's true.
If the Parliament suspects that this becomes this kind of litigation is too problem. But so the peoples of the member states are represented. What's the difference between the nationals of the member states and the peoples of the member states in this respect? And the sum of the nationals. Like, can we say, oh.
Because people of one nation have different interests, and a nation has just one interest, and the people of a nation can have different interests.
Well, actually, there's a free flow of the human resource now, so you can work anywhere where you want. So even if you live in another country, there are people in that country that you have the national.
Exactly. That's exactly the point I was expecting you to make.
But in European Parliament, there is a quota for each country member state.
No, I said that many times already. It's not peoples. We don't speak for the countries. There is a quota. There is a quota for every people. of the member state, because peoples of the member states are represented. This is what the treaty tells us. Because if we follow your logic, then what fairness outlined will not be material anymore. It means that by following your logic, we automatically exclude from the franchise all those who use their free movement rights. And we basically then re-erect the borders within the community for free movement of persons.
No, I think I'm misunderstood. But I want to say that in the European Parliament, there is a quota for each country, right?
For each people of the member states.
Yes, who are representing, who are working in the European Parliament, but each person who is the member of the European Parliament, he is supposed to be under one state, the member of the European Parliament, right?
The MPs that are selected to represent each country in the European Parliament.
The MPs are elected according to the, well, I bring you back to the roots of the system. There is no European election law. Why? Because the member states are very afraid of losing sovereignty in this domain. Let's put it this way. It's not a logical thing on the part of the member states. As a consequence of the lack of an election law, all the elections into the European Parliament take place in accordance with the electoral law of every particular member state. So there are 27 electoral laws involved in electing one body of representatives of the peoples of the member states of the community. And then, so as a consequence, in order to make sure that peoples are represented, not citizens.
Not citizens.
The treaty.
Yes, I know that because I know one person who is Belgian by origin, but he is suggested as a candidate from the UK.
Exactly. So the treaty
yes.
provides for special quotas for every member, quotas for the member states. Why? This quotas would be totally illogical if we speak about the representation of citizens. Why? Because they basically breach the principle of equality of votes between the citizens. But the principle of equality of votes between the citizens is of lower order in community law compared with the, how to say, the attempt on the part of the community to make sure that all the peoples are feasibly represented. If we speak about the representation of citizens, then the Maltese people will probably get no votes at all as a people. But now, as long as we don't speak about the representation of citizens, we speak about the representation of people, then we can basically say that the principle of equality of votes between the citizens doesn't apply as long as theoretical equality between the peoples applies. So, peoples of the member state to whom quotas are granted include nationals of the member state that gets the quota, plus all the other nationals of other member states residing there. Think about Luxembourg. 70% of the residents are foreigners. Foreigners coming mostly from other member states of the community. It doesn't matter. It is not like this that all those 70% are excluded from the franchise because they are not part of the people. No, simply by moving